Man, it's going to be some of y'all in a frenzy, very upset, very confused. But don't worry, KTV is going to break it down to you because the Indiana Fever have to protect 5 players, and Sophie Cunningham may not be one of them. We got to break this thing down, man. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, hype the video. That would be greatly appreciated.
That level of certainty right there, that's about to send shockwaves through Indiana Fever Nation. Because what he just laid out means Sophie Cunningham, the player fans have been begging the team to protect, is about to become expendable. And the reason why comes down to a technicality in the new CBA that most people completely missed.
So, there have been some major changes to the CBA that is going to, make no mistake about it, affect the protections for the expansion and all of those things. Now, who will the Indiana Fever be protecting? Who won't they be protecting? And why won't they be protecting? I don't believe Sophie Cunningham is a player they are going to protect.
5 protection slots. That's all Indiana gets when the Toronto Tempo and Portland Fire start cherry-picking rosters in the 2026 Expansion Draft. And here's where it gets complicated. The CBA changes that dropped in December 2024 fundamentally altered how teams can lock down their talent. We're not just talking about who's good enough to protect anymore. We're talking about contract structures, free agency designations, and financial strategy that goes way deeper than just keeping your best 5 players.
And I'll explain why. I believe they will obviously protect the GOAT, the head honcho, aka the reason, because she's the reason everybody's tuned in. That is Caitlin Clark. They'll protect Aaliyah Boston, her pick and roll mate, one of the best bigs in the WNBA. They will protect Lexi Hall, who's a protected free agent. That is very important. She's a protected free agent.
Let's break down the obvious ones first. Caitlin Clark gets protected. That's not even a discussion. She's the reason ticket sales jumped 93% in Indianapolis in 2024. She's the reason the Fever went from averaging 4,067 fans per game in 2023 to selling out Gainbridge Fieldhouse at 17,274 capacity. Aaliyah Boston, the 2023 Rookie of the Year and Clark's primary pick-and-roll partner, gets protected. Their 2-woman game generated 847 points last season, the most productive duo combination in the league. These two are untouchable.
And you are able to hold on to the rights to her, as 80% of the league is free agents, okay? And I believe that they will protect Kelsey Mitchell. Now, I know we had these conversations about how Kelsey Mitchell has to go. They can't afford to give her a max and yada, yada, yada. Now, more details about this CBA are coming out by the day, okay? It's come out that the WNBA can move this thing to a 52-game season. With this new CBA they just went from 40 games, they went to 44, and now they have the opportunity to move to 50.
Now here's where the strategy gets interesting. Lexi Hall is a restricted free agent, which means she has a completely different designation than Sophie Cunningham's unrestricted status. If Indiana protects Hall in the expansion draft, they maintain matching rights on any offer she receives. That means Hall can test the market, get offers from Golden State, from Dallas, from whoever wants to pay her, and Indiana can match any contract and keep her. But if they don't protect her and she gets selected in the expansion, those matching rights vanish. She's gone. No negotiation, no counteroffer, nothing.
Pour out. Okay, and another detail that has come out that's going to affect this whole situation is the core designation. Okay, we saw the detail where you're no longer going to be able to core a player that has more than 6 years of service in the league. And that sent the alarms off for Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey Mitchell's been in the league for more than 6 years. Kelsey Mitchell's already been cored. And if that's the case, you can't core her. You have to give her a max.
Kelsey Mitchell presents the most fascinating case study here. She's been in the league since 2018, which puts her over the 6-year service threshold. And the new CBA explicitly states that players with more than 6 years of experience cannot be cored starting in 2027. That sent alarm bells ringing across Fever social media, because Mitchell's been carrying the scoring load alongside Clark. But here's the detail everyone initially missed.
And hope she wants to take a 1-year max when somebody out there is going to offer a multi-year max deal for her, I believe. But another detail has come out. And that core designation rule will not kick in until next offseason, 2027. So the Indiana Fever still have the opportunity to core Kelsey Mitchell for one more season, paying her a maximum salary.
That core designation rule doesn't activate until the 2027 offseason, which means Indiana has one more year to use the core tag on Mitchell. They can designate her as their franchise player, pay her the maximum salary of approximately $241,984 for the 2026 season, and keep her locked in for one more championship window with Clark. It's a short-term solution, but it buys them time. And in a league where 80% of rosters hit free agency simultaneously, time is the most valuable commodity a front office has.
Well, okay. Now, the reason you protect Lexie Hall, oh yeah, it's because she plays great. Yes, she plays great with Caitlin Clark, and we always want to see Lexie Hall play with Caitlin Clark. You protect her because you want to keep the protections of her being a protected free agent. Okay, so Lexie Hall and her agent is going to be able to go out there, scour the market, test the market, and see what the offers are. Now, the Indiana Fever have the rights to match any offer she gets. So if
Michaela Timpson rounds out the 5 protection slots, and this one's purely about asset control. She's on a rookie scale contract through 2027, which means Indiana already has her locked in at below market value. The 2024 second-round pick averaged 4.2 points in limited minutes, but her three-point shooting percentage of 38.7% from the corner makes her a valuable spacing option in Stephanie White's offensive system. More importantly, she costs almost nothing against the salary cap while the team figures out how to pay Clark, Boston, and Mitchell.
Expansion, the Toronto Tempo and the Portland Fire. If they are going to take Sophie Cunningham in an expansion draft, that means they're going to be giving her a max contract, $1 million+, which is something as an Indiana Fever fan you were never going to do. You were never going to do that. Now, unless they're just thirsty and feel like she's going to sell some tickets or something.
So where does that leave Sophie Cunningham? That's the question burning up comment sections right now. And the answer requires understanding the difference between restricted and unrestricted free agency, because that distinction is about to determine her entire future with this franchise. Cunningham is an unrestricted free agent. That means she has zero obligations to Indiana. She can negotiate with any team, accept any offer, and walk away without the Fever having any recourse. If Indiana uses one of their 5 precious protection slots on her, they get nothing in return. She's still unrestricted. She can still leave. The protection doesn't grant them matching rights like it does with Hall. It just prevents Toronto and Portland from selecting her in the expansion draft. But here's the critical calculation. For an expansion team to select Cunningham, they have to offer her a contract immediately. And because expansion teams are building from scratch, they typically offer maximum or near maximum deals to make their rosters attractive. That means Toronto or Portland would need to pay Cunningham somewhere in the range of $200,000 to $241,000 annually to justify using an expansion pick on her. Is Sophie Cunningham a max contract player? That's the question Indiana's front office is asking right now. She averaged 6.8 points and 2.1 rebounds in 19.4 minutes per game during the 2024 season. Her three-point percentage sat at 34.2%, which is solid but not elite. She's a high-energy defender who brings physicality and toughness, but she's not someone you build a franchise around. She's a complementary piece. So if you're the Toronto Tempo or Portland Fire, are you really going to burn an expansion draft pick on Sophie Cunningham and immediately hand her a max contract? Probably not. There are going to be younger players available, players with higher ceilings, players on cheaper rookie deals that make more financial sense. Cunningham is 28 years old. She's hit her prime. What you see is what you get.
Really gonna see what offers are out there, and the Indiana Fever are gonna have to come correct with a quality offer of their own if they want to keep her. There's no point in using the protection on her. You're going to protect her and she's still going to go hit the free market as an unprotected free agent. It doesn't make sense. Why would you risk losing a Michaela Timpson who you have under contract for a longer period of time? Obviously, Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, that doesn't need to be discussed. Okay, Kelsey Mitchell, you're going to keep her. You're going to core her for one more year. Maybe, you could trade her during.
And that's the gamble Indiana is making. They're betting that Toronto and Portland pass on Cunningham in the expansion draft because the price point doesn't match the production, which means she hits unrestricted free agency and Indiana can negotiate with her directly without wasting a protection slot. They can offer her a fair market contract, probably in the $120,000 to $160,000 range, and if she wants to stay in Indianapolis and play alongside Caitlin Clark, she'll take it. But what if she doesn't want to stay? What if Phoenix offers her more money? What if Dallas promises her a starting role? That's the risk. Indiana loses her for nothing. No compensation, no trade value, just gone. And after spending months building chemistry with Clark and fitting into Stephanie White's defensive schemes, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Giving her the absorbent amount of dollars that it would take to keep her. I just don't see that happening. So that is why I don't feel Sophie Cunningham will be protected. Now let's take a listen as Annie Costable, aka Annie Scoops, spoke about the core rule that will take effect in 2027.
2027. So superstar players of large reputation, and that players can only be cored with 6 or few years.
The broader context here is that the WNBA's new collective bargaining agreement completely reshaped how teams build rosters. The league is moving to a 52-game schedule, up from 40 games just 2 years ago. That means more revenue, but also more salary cap pressure. Teams can't just throw money at every problem anymore. They have to make strategic decisions about who gets paid and who gets replaced. Indiana's in a particularly tough spot because they have 3 players who could command maximum or near maximum contracts. Clark is going to get paid whatever she asks for when her rookie deal expires in 2028. Boston is going to demand a max extension when she hits restricted free agency in 2027. And Mitchell, if she keeps producing at her current level, deserves max money right now. You cannot pay 4 max contracts on a WNBA roster and field a competitive team. The salary cap doesn't allow it. So somebody's getting left out, and when you're choosing between Kelsey Mitchell, a proven 20-point-per-game scorer, and Sophie Cunningham, a rotation player who gives you energy and toughness, the choice becomes pretty clear. This is where Kelly Krauskopf's front office philosophy gets tested. She built her reputation in Indiana by making tough, unpopular decisions that paid off long-term. She drafted Tamika Catchings in 2001 and built a dynasty around her. She traded fan favorites when their contracts didn't align with the team's window. She's not sentimental, she's strategic. And the strategic move here is letting Cunningham walk if she gets a better offer elsewhere. Because protecting her means exposing either Timpson or Hull, and both of those players have more long-term value. Timpson is 23 years old and improving. Hull is 25, and fits perfectly with Clark's playing style. Cunningham is 28 and plateauing. Now, does that mean Cunningham is definitely gone? Not necessarily. If she values playing time and team success over maximizing her contract, Indianapolis is the best situation for her. She's playing alongside the most popular player in women's basketball. She's getting national TV exposure every week. She's competing for a championship. Those factors matter, especially for a veteran who's already made decent money in Phoenix before coming to Indiana. But she's also at the stage of her career where this might be her last chance to secure a significant payday. WNBA careers are short. The average player lasts 3.5 years in the league. Cunningham's already beaten those odds, but that also means she's running out of time to maximize her earnings. If someone offers her $180,000 for 2 years guaranteed, can she really turn that down to stay in Indiana for $130,000? Here's what makes this particularly complicated. The expansion draft happens before free agency opens. So Indiana has to make their protection decisions without knowing what the market looks like for Cunningham. They're flying blind. If they protect her and she leaves anyway, they wasted a slot. If they don't protect her and Portland scoops her up, fans riot. There's no perfect answer. And this is where Stephanie White's input becomes crucial. She's the head coach. She's the one designing the defensive schemes that Cunningham executes. She's the one managing rotations and deciding who plays in crunch time. If White tells Krauskopf that Cunningham is essential to the team's defensive identity, that carries weight. But if White says she can replace Cunningham's production with a younger, cheaper player in the draft, that changes the calculation entirely. The core designation situation with Kelsey Mitchell adds another layer of complexity. Because if Indiana cores Mitchell for 2026, they're committing max money to a player who might not be in their long-term plans. Mitchell will be 32 years old when her core year expires. Clark will be entering her prime. Boston will be 26 and hitting her peak. The championship window shifts away from Mitchell and toward the younger stars. So does it make sense to pay Mitchell max money for 1 year, knowing you probably can't afford to keep her after that? Or do you let her walk now, use that cap space to build depth around Clark and Boston, and accept that you're going to take a step back in 2026 to be better positioned for 2027 and beyond? These are the decisions that define franchises, and Indiana's track record under Crosskopf suggests they'll prioritize the long-term vision over short-term fan satisfaction, which means Mitchell might get cored for 1 year as a bridge. Cunningham probably doesn't get protected, and the front office starts planning for a 2027 roster built around Clark, Boston, and whatever young talent they can acquire through the draft. But here's the wild card nobody's talking about. What if Sophie Cunningham wants to come back so badly that she takes a team-friendly deal? What if she tells Indiana, "I'll sign for $110,000 if you guarantee me a starting role and a 2-year contract"? Suddenly the math changes. Suddenly you can keep Cunningham, Mitchell, Clark, Boston, and Hull, and you've got a legitimate championship core. That's the scenario Fever fans are hoping for. That's the outcome that makes everyone happy. But it requires Cunningham to leave money on the table. And in a league where players are finally starting to get paid fairly, asking someone to take a discount feels increasingly unrealistic. The reality is that the WNBA's growth is creating these problems. 10 years ago, nobody was offering Sophie Cunningham $180,000. The league minimum was $37,950 and the max was $107,000. Players took team-friendly deals because there was no other option. But now, with expansion teams desperate for talent and veteran players commanding real money, the leverage has shifted. And that's ultimately good for the players, even if it makes roster construction harder for front offices. Because for too long, WNBA players were underpaid relative to the revenue they generated. Now, with the new CBA guaranteeing players 50% of league revenue and the salary cap projected to jump from $1.46 million in 2025 to potentially $2.2 million by 2027, players finally have negotiating power. So when Sophie Cunningham hits free agency and sees what she's worth on the open market, she has every right to take the best offer. And if that offer comes from Portland or Dallas or Las Vegas instead of Indianapolis, Fever fans can't be mad at her. They should be mad at the system that forces teams to choose between paying their stars and keeping their role players. But that's the WNBA in 2026. It's a league in transition, caught between its scrappy underdog past and its mainstream future. The money's getting better, the attention's getting bigger, and the decisions are getting harder. Indiana's going to protect Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hall, Kelsey Mitchell, and Michaela Timpson. Sophie Cunningham's going to test free agency, and we're all going to find out whether loyalty or money wins when the market opens. So here's the question for you. If you're Sophie Cunningham, do you take less money to stay in Indianapolis and compete for a championship with Caitlin Clark? Or do you go get paid what you're worth, even if it means playing for an expansion team that's going to struggle for 3 years? Because there's no wrong answer. There's just the choice between security and opportunity, between comfort and ambition, between staying where you're valued and going where you're paid. Drop your take in the comments because this decision is going to define the Fever's next 3 seasons.